thrilled to have all of you here today, and we're thrilled that we're doing a soft opening of Liberty Park tonight. We still have still a little bit of progress going on, but first of all, I'd like to recognize we have two former mayors, Bill Horton and Bill Muller here, and this started way before I even thought about being a mayor, so it was under their watch that they kind of got the ball rolling, and then the whole thing worked out to where we are today. So thank you, gentlemen, for starting that. Councilperson Dilemma, he got stuck with a lot of this the last.
I was conscripted.
Yes, it was voluntold. We had some issues. He picked up the ball to sort of get this project back on the tracks. So
as Greg said, I'm Don Lemon. I'm one of the council people. This park project, as you know, has been going on for many, many years. What we've done about it and what we intend to do. So the first thing I wanted to mention is the Environmental Protection Agency in New Jersey considers this a critical wetland. So what that means is you need permits to cut a blade of grass. And the permits took us about 3 years to get. So that was a big reason for some of the delay. The second challenge we have is the rear perimeter of the property over there, where those old concrete stanchions are owned by the railroad. We can't touch that. And the third thing I'll mention is we have some challenges with the water quality in the pond, and I'll talk about that during the tour. But for you old timers, there used to be a weir on the river right behind it. That weir collapsed. What used to happen is the water would come up to the weir, it would flow partially through the pond, and it would clean it out and refresh it every few hours. When that collapsed, obviously that source of refresh went away, and that causes the challenges with the pond water. Now the railroad that owns the weir will not allow us to repair it, and the state will not give us a permit to fix it, so we had to come up with other ideas. And the last thing I'll mention is the site isn't perfect. It's in a floodplain, so for those of you who have walked here before, you're familiar with the mud and the water and the wetness. We've done a lot of interesting things to help minimize it. The site will never be perfect. It's as good as we can get. So the first thing I'll point out is the entryway we have here. I think it's a lot brighter, more open. The planters are watered, so there's hidden hoses in here with water. And there's beautiful lighting that comes down. You see that when it's driven by the site tonight, this is all lit up. There'll be lights under the bench eventually. Lights in the far end are LED lights that are hidden passive lighting in the trees. We've set the lights to be on all night. However, we've set the park hours from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. We don't want it to be a hangout that could lead to problems. So the police would then have enforcement to say 9 o'clock is time to leave the park, unless a special function's going. The total cost for the park was about $1 million. What we did was 3 different things. The first thing we did is we have new drain systems going in that are flush with the ground. So it's a water pond that goes in these tubes, and then the rainwater, which is clear, goes into the pond, and that helps flush out the pond as well. The second thing we have is if you've ever had a damp spot, you want to spread out that water so that the water goes away more quickly. So we have a very innovative system called multi-flow tubes. These are tubes about yay long. They're underground, and they're pointed in different directions. So surface water ponds on top, it's spread out so that it evaporates and is absorbed more quickly. So that's in place now. It's all buried. You would never see it. The third thing is we have a variety of plantings, and I'll talk more when we get to the pond about the special plantings there. This is all grass. These are planted beds. In an effort to be 100% transparent, we are not happy with the job that the contractor did on the grass, but we're giving it the opportunity to grow into the fall, understanding that if it doesn't, we've withheld money from payment, and we will come in with either sod or replanting in the fall if necessary. And the contractor is working with us on this. He got a late start for a variety of reasons. There's also been a lot of supply chain issues getting a lot of the parts that we needed. There's a lot more beds of plantings, and as you notice, the mulching beds right now have plantings, but they have a lot of weeds. So Brad's team will be weeding these mulching beds. It's a lot of work, but the park hasn't been turned over to the town yet, so we can't technically touch it until the contractor says, I'm done, you can have it. So the park will be open, some things we can do, some things we can't do. It's up on the hill, it'll channel underneath these metal pieces here and work its way into the beds to water the plants. We also have a watering system, not a watering system, a water availability throughout the pond from one side to the other, so we have access to do manual sprinklers. We didn't put underground sprinklers because our permit from the state would not allow us to do that. But we will be watering the site every 3 days or so until the grass takes.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
So, because of the grass,
yes.
assumption being people will not be able to walk on it through
Correct.
the fall.
Until the grass takes root, however long that's going to take,
Okay.
it will be a while. So we wanted to not make the park look too fenced in,
Right.
but walking on it would not be good. And you can see the buds are
Yep.
coming in now.
So the orange fencing we see now stays. Or you're going to get to that.
Yes, so
Sorry.
I'll talk about that, but this is a good point to bring up the bane of my existence. The ugly orange fencing
gonna stay.
that will have to stay for 1 year. And let me explain. It's not this fencing, it's the fencing around the pond. The biggest problem we have, they're not geese, they're damn geese. And there's a lot of them. And so we have almost 1,000 plants planted around the pond, and I'll talk about that in a second. And the geese think that these plants are great. They don't want to eat them, they want to play with them. And we did a test section, and within minutes, the geese were pulling the plants out and shaking them and then dumping it on the ground and being very happy with themselves and moving on to the next plant. So in order for the contractor to guarantee the plantings, which cost about $100,000 for everything you see here, they had to put in a double layer of fencing, one on each side. It doesn't get rid of all the geese, but it gets rid of a lot of them. There's about half the geese now than there were before the project started. We're also going to be purchasing a special geese deterrent system that uses a flashing amber light, which really makes the geese upset with the environment. And the contractor guarantees that this will work, and you will see. So we're not risking any money if it doesn't work. But we're hoping that this would be the least offensive and most humane way to deal with the geese. And we'll give it a try for 3 months, and then we'll see what happens and reassess. You might remember around the pond we had those steel cages with the rocks. Okay. Those are called gabions. What we did was we put soil in the gabions and a special thing called a core mat on top of it, and then we have about 1,000 plantings in there. The plantings will have the root system go through the rocks and into the pond. And these types of plants are specially purchased that they remove phosphates from the water. Phosphates are a key that algae needs to grow. It will take about a year for that root system to develop, but if you might recall from prior years, we have algae, but it's not nearly as bad as it was in prior years. The second thing we did, and I'm stealing my thunder from our second stop.
Sorry.
That's okay. I'm excited. Is we installed a well that's pumping between 50 and 100,000 gallons of water into this area. First of all, I want to point out the gazebo side of it. It really looks quite nice. So the gazebo is 100% finished at this point and ready to go. Look at, there's a white cabinet hidden behind the rock. In that cabinet will go 2 pumps for the aerators. What the aerators do is there are hoses that are out in the pond, and that helps circulate the algae and the pond yuck stuff, and helps churn it up. It's a technical term, yes. And then it will be carried out by the railroad. The pumps that we previously had ceased, and they're hard to get because of supply chain problems. We have ordered the pumps. They should be in hopefully next week, and we'll activate that feature. Now, you won't see the aerators working. They'll just be on underwater. What you will see are the fountains. There's a lot of memorials in the park. We were able to preserve all of them. And as you walk through, you passed a couple of benches. Those were the original benches that were here. They were cleaned by our public works people and placed back out. We've also ordered new benches using the same wood. That was part of the specification. The unfortunate thing we learned is that wood is only available in Brazil. So that wood was ordered 10 months ago. I'm told it is in, and so the few additional benches will be constructed out of exactly the same Brazilian hardwood. All the lights in the park are LED lights. These fixtures here, these LED top lights, to emulate kind of a gas light look, but it's a soft light and it's a dark sky compliant light. The other lights are hidden in the trees on the far side, and those are lower intensity LED lights, and if you've driven past it, it has a very nice depth of effect at night. Lit up with very soft colors, but enough where you can see where you're going when you're walking around the pond. There are 3 telephone poles along what used to be Park Avenue. Those poles have the ugly stainless steel fixtures. We have ordered new, they're called copper colonial light fixtures to kind of go with the theme of the park. Those will be in at some point in the future when JCP&L receives those, but it's one of those pending items. We also took Park Avenue, which used to go through right past the tot lot, and that now is additional park space. and we have parking over here, including a handicap parking spot.
If you have a display or a speech of some sort, you can have it over here. In each end of the pond, we have 400 lilies planted underwater, and the lilies will come up and surface at some point, and also remove a lot of phosphates from the water. So they will flower eventually.
The bridge was installed, and that's custom hand fabricated prior to the shutdown. The kiosks have all been redone. Those are new shingles, new painted. That's not paint being worn off, that's simply just mud that picked up from the work that was done. The day before yesterday, our public works people regraded this entire section of the street. The water used to pond here, or the water would run down this way, wiping out the mulch and the gravel. So this was all re-engineered, and all the water now goes here. All the trash cans, there's 4 sets of them, are these sturdy ones here that are bolted to the concrete. Now, the South Avenue, which is a historic structure, we had a number of changes on it. There's a new roof, there's new gutters, there's new lights, and the old concrete iron ramp has been replaced with an ADA compliant crushed gravel ramp with a more gradual rise into the scout depth. I'm particularly happy with the way the tot lot came out, for those of you who have children. So it was an old chain link fence that was there. So this is a 4-foot Jeremet aluminum fence, which looks quite nice. And I encourage you later to actually step on the mulch that we have in there. That is special playground mulch. It is extremely soft, so if children fall, they won't get splinters and they won't hurt themselves as easily as they could if it were another subject. The size of the tot lot is quite large. It's 47 feet by 35. And we have our rec commission looking at adding additional play structures within the lot. They made the determination that the existing central play structure was adequate, but it's been power washed and painted, so it actually looks still quite nice. Central Park in New York. So we tried very hard to preserve the aesthetic of the design that the original person had. So there was discussion about making the pond smaller, and we decided to, out of respect for the history and lineage of the park, to keep the same footprint that we have. Also, it made the EPA happier that we didn't have to touch the boundaries of the pond, because that would have been another year in permit. You can see the mats over here that have the soil underneath it, that have the rocks underneath it. And as these plants grow, the roots will work their way down. We power washed it, we painted it, we kept the original iron railings. What you're seeing over here with the spillway is as that pump is pumping 50 to 100,000 gallons a day, the water collects with its murkiness and it comes over the spillway, and then it works its way through pipes over here down to the river. And that's what we're trying to do to keep the pond clean until the aerators and the fountains are up and the root systems take hold. There will be algae, especially this year. They figured out that one lifts the fence and that family doesn't.
Seriously.
Yeah. So we put stakes on the bottom of the fence today. This is our remaining family of geese. And you can see they have the goslings that aren't ready to leave yet. They have figured out that the mother or father can lift the bottom of the fence, and then all the babies crawl underneath to the patches and get to play with our plantings. So today we put tacks on the bottom of the fences. So they're very frustrated right now because they can't figure out how to open them. The adults can hop over, but the babies can't. The other thing I wanted to point out are these new drains you see here. So this is the area where the water ponded the most. That water will go underneath on these drains and goes beeline right out to the pond. The lilies are coming up in this section where they're also planted over here. And the last thing I'll point out is that box right over there, which is not completed yet, that's the new power to the park, and that'll control the fountains. The box is a stainless steel cabinet to protect it from children breaking in and getting shocked. So it took 2 months to get that box in, and we just received it yesterday. And the supply chain has really made things go a little bit slower than we would have liked.
Don, have you decided where the holiday tree is going to be?
Because every year we have the traditional Christmas displays and a holiday tree. What should we do? Now, we haven't decided, but one possible location is right over here. There is electric right over there.
Yeah.
And so that would easily be able to light it up. The other possibility would be in the main area, but I'm leaning toward over here.
But planting it, not have it be an import.
We would look at both options. The landscape architect would make a recommendation, then the council would. So this tree originally was identified to be cut down. You
stop them because there is an indication that there may have been height up at the top, and we told the guy, the landscape architect, you're not taking it down. So this is just a remnant of it. We can actually take this off. So there used to be a old, very, very tall flagpole right here. It was beginning to rust. It is too tall for the park. So we ordered a new 30-foot high fiberglass flagpole. It's about 6 weeks more. It was back ordered, but it is coming in. The flagpole will go over here. The light is already in place, and that flag will be illuminated. This was probably one of the biggest projects the town has ever undertaken, and it was extremely complex because of the EPA issues, the flooding issues, the environmental considerations that we had, the geese issues, the contracting bidding law issues, and also managing the construction of the project, which was challenging because it had to go out to bid, and they needed a little guidance. So I think we're in a good place. What we have remaining, just to recap, flag is coming in about 6-7 weeks. Electrical cabinet should be finished next week. We'll wait for the power company to drop the line whenever they want to do it. We can't control that. The fountains will then be turned on. The aerators will be turned on when the pumps come in about a week or so. The playground equipment, everything is cleaned up, ready to go, but we're hoping for some additional pieces, but that's over the course of a year. And the ugly fences will remain for, unfortunately, a year, but hopefully you agree it's for good reason. The minute we take them down, those plantings are gone, and it is all for naught. So that's what we have. I remain hopeful but cautious about the lawns, and if it doesn't take root the way we want it, we will fix it in the fall. Yes.
I was surprised that an underground sprinkler system wasn't put in. Is it prohibited by?
Yes, we were prohibited. The EPA permit did not allow us to put in an underground sprinkler. I would say that the cost of the grass is about $40,000. We are not paying the $40,000, and they agreed. They understand our concern. In addition to that, we withhold the percentage of the money for 1 year, no matter what. That's on everything. Plus, they file what's called a performance bond. And so if anything isn't done correctly and they don't fix it, we go to the bonding company, and the bonding company pays us to make the repair. So we have triple coverage that way. The contractor's really trying to do the right thing. I got to give them credit. And this was a complicated project with a lot of changes. So I think we're pretty well protected.